അല്ലലൊക്കെയും തിരുവന്തിന് മാറ്റം അല്ലലും തരുവാകും അരുളൻ പനുകമ്പമൂന്നിനും പൊരുളൊന്നാണിതോ ജീവതാരകം. അരുളുള്ളവനാണു ജീവി എന്നൊരു വിട്ടിടുക ഈ നവാക്ഷരി. അരുളില്ലയതെങ്കിൽ ഹസ്തിതോൾ സിരനാറുന്നൊരുടമ്പുതാനവൻ മരുവിൽ പ്രവഹിക്കുവമ്പുവ പുരുഷൻ നിഷ്ഫലഗന്ധപുഷ്പമാം. വരുമാറുവിധം വികാരവും വരുമാറില്ലറിവിന്നിതിന്നു നേർ. ഉരുവാവുടൽ വിട്ടു കീർത്തിയാവുരുവാർ നിങ്ങ അനുകമ്പ നിന്നിടും. പരമാർത്ഥമുരച്ചു തേർവിടും പൊരുളോ ഭൂതദയാക്ഷമാഭിയോ. സരളാദ്വയ ഭാഷ്യകാരനാം ഗുരുവോയി അനുകമ്പയാണ്ടവൻ. പുരുഷാകൃതി പൂണ്ട ദൈവമോ നരദിവ്യാകൃതി പൂണ്ട ധർമ്മമോ. പരമേശ പവിത്രപുത്രനോ കരുണാവാൻ നബിമുത്തുരത്നമോ. ജ്വരമാറ്റി വിഭൂതി കൊണ്ട് മുന്നരിതാം വേലകൾ ചെയ്ത മൂർത്തിയോ. അരുതാതെ വലഞ്ഞു പാടി ഔദരമാം നോവു കെടുത്ത സിദ്ധനോ. ഹരനെന്നെഴുതി പ്രസിദ്ധമാം മറയൊന്നോതിയ മാമുനീന്ദ്രനോ. മരിയാതുടലോടു പോയൊര പരമേശന്റെ പരാർത്ഥ്യഭക്തനോ. നരരൂപമെടുത്തു ഭൂമിയിൽ പെരുമാറിയിടിന കാമധേനുവോ. പരമാത്ഭുത ദാനദേവദാതരുവോ ഈ അനുകമ്പയാണ്ടവൻ. അരുമാമറയോതും അർത്ഥവും ഗുരുവോതും മുനിയോതും അർത്ഥവും ഒരു ജാതിയിലുള്ളതൊന്നു താൻ പൊരുളോർത്താൽ അഖിലാഗമത്തിനും.
To everyone here, we wish you a wonderful evening. You are cordially invited to join the online platform of Narayana Gurukula. This webinar is being held as part of the one-year celebration of Guru Muni Narayana Prasad's Shatabhishekam. Guru has been the head of the Narayana Gurukula for more than 20 years. This is the first of a series of webinars planned in connection with the celebration in following months. Usually, celebrations in today's society are carried out in a colorful fashion with a lot of noise and extraneous activities engaged. In contrast to the conventional styles of celebration, Gurukula would like to limit its festivities to the exchange of knowledge, because the Gurukula's orientation is towards wisdom and its teachings are based on knowledge circumstances that are significant in human life. I wouldn't want to mention anything about the webinar's theme because we have a very experienced learner and long-term Gurukula affiliate present to address this subject. That is Dr. Sabu, who will be moderating the full day's event and speaking more about the subject matter. Before I conclude this introductory talk, I would like to request you to be patient throughout the session, to listen to it carefully without intervening, and to respect the moderator's judgments. Also, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties with the Zoom app, such as connectivity issues, audio issues, or other issues, please contact only the administrator. We ask that do not bother the moderator with such technical concerns. We wish you a successful session. Thank you very much. And the microphone is now Dr. Sabu's, still the end of his session. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Pranam to the author of the book, Guru Narayana Prasad. Good evening to all, and good morning to those who are joining from the other side of the globe. Namaste. As mentioned by the host, this is part of the lunar centenary celebrations of the head of Narayana Gurukula, what we call in Malayalam as Shatabhishekam. So he is the head of Narayana Gurukula, which is a Guru disciple organization or foundation, founded by P. Nadarajan, who later became Dr. P. Nadarajan and further Nadaraja Guru, who was a direct disciple of Narayana Guru and who was academically as well as philosophically qualified as an educator.
Hello,
am I audible? Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, Mr. Sabu, Dr. Sabu.
Okay, thank you. So he had a doctorate in educational psychology and education philosophy from Sorbonne University, France, and also a member of Royal Society of Teachers of London. So Narayana Gurukula can be considered as an educational institution. At least for me, it is an educational institution. Not of a formal nature, we can call it as an informal or non-formal or of complementary nature or supplementary nature, whatever it is. Whatever is missing or lacking in our formal education, Gurukula is supposed to give that type of education. And this webinar also is part of that series. So we'll come to the topic. We are mainly dealing with a particular book. And the content of the book that will be presented by the present days. We have 6 present days. So my job is only that of moderator. I will create a psychological setup for how to enter or how not to enter into the seminar, and the rest will be done by the present days. So this book is useful for any type of people, but basically it is meant for undergraduates, what we call undergraduates in India and graduate students in abroad. So I will be focusing on that group, undergraduates, in my style of communication, not the other group, the undergraduate level, because it is meant for the undergraduates. And the best way to enter this type of webinar is by quoting any eminent personality or a great soul from the field of philosophy. That will be a better way of entering into the webinar, because the topic is philosophy. It is pure philosophy simplified for youth. That is the topic. But I am not taking that course. So I am entering from the other side through a subject which is considered to be just opposite to that of philosophy, that is physics. So whether physics is opposite to philosophy is a subject matter which we can debate, but the usual notion is that physics is just opposite to philosophy, because physics is more objective or experimental oriented and philosophy is more subjective oriented. And why I am choosing philosophy or physics as my entry? One reason is an answer to an anticipatory question. So there are many people who used to ask, is it scientific? Is it scientific? So whether that question is a hypothetical question or an actual question, there's an answer also. I am choosing, well, another reason for choosing physics is that this is a subject that deals with the study of the universe. And that study ranging from the galaxies to the smallest world. And whatever is revealed through their study, that will help us to develop an outlook of the world, how to look at the world, how to look at the universe. And since we also are part of the universe, that will help us to look at ourselves also. So that is another dimension of physics other than the pure academic side. That's another reason why I am entering through physics. And to enter, I am quoting the most eminent scientist of 20th century, Albert Einstein. Because his style of physics was drastically different from what physics was in 19th century. So he revolutionized the concept of the physics. So he once said that the most beautiful experience we can have is that of the mystical. This is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science. So what is mystical? There are two fundamental concepts. One is it is beyond our senses. So we are getting a lot of experiences through our eyes or nose or ears or whatever the different sense organs we are getting. But mystical is different from the experience that we gather through the sense organs. That is one aspect. Another aspect of being mystical is that it is beyond our intellectual level. We cannot enter that domain through our intellectual level or intellectual pursuits. It is not possible. It is something from our inside. It is mystical. And he says that the origin of art and science is from these souls. And further, he adds that whoever does not know it, who can no more wonder, no more marvel, is as good as dead. Their eyes are dimmed. So this is a drastic change in the outlook of the physics. Earlier in the 19th century, it was purely a mechanistic approach based on matter, where we concentrate on the objective side without giving much consideration to our subjective sides or emotional sides. But what Einstein says is that if you are not having that type of emotional experience, we are dead, emotionally dead. So this is a change in physics starting from 20th century. And naturally, as I said, since physics gives us the outlook of the world, that has to be reflected in all other fields of like education, economics, technology, even biology, medicine, even our outlook of life. But you have to incorporate these findings of physics. Unfortunately, it is lagging. There is a lag. And one way of presenting this book is that is to fill the gap. Because most of us are still having the notion of physics as purely mechanistic or the world view as purely mechanistic. So here we want a different types of outlook of the world, how we see the world, how we see our life. That outlook has to be drastically changed. And the purpose of this book, this purpose of the webinar is to make that particular outlook. There is a term coined by the former head and guru of Narayana Gurukulam, Nitya Chaitanya, the imperience. That word we cannot find in dictionary. He coined it to distinguish between what is experienced outside and what is seen inside. So we are concentrating on the imperience side of it. And we have 6 presenters, they will present it. 4 of the presenters are from Kerala. Dr. Rani will speak from Varkala, Dr. Radha Rani and Dr. Priya Nair from Thiruvananthapuram. Dr. Mrs. Anju, she is from Rani. And we have a representative of North America, Shamida Bharathan from Canada, and Mr. Sadal Bathavan, he will speak from London. So we have representatives of 3 continents. And we need a particular type of mindset also to enter into this particular type of way of outlook of the world. That I will tell you just after the presentation of the introduction of the book. But by Dr. Rani, because we need an idea about what the book contains, what is the content. So I request Dr. Rani to present the introductory part and also the first chapter of the book. Dr. Rani is basically a teacher. She is also a teacher trainer, and now she is acting as the headmistress. And to her credit, there are 3 books of her poems, and she is also a student of psychology. And her philosophical side is because she is associated with Narayana Gurukulam, an informal education center. Actually, she had a very adventure to join this program because there was a sudden power failure in her area, this Gurukulam in Varkala, and she will be presenting from Narayana Gurukulam Varkala. Dr. Rani, please, handing over the mic to you to present the introductory part. Hello?
Yeah, she'll be joining very soon, sir. 1 second.
So she will join soon. So, host Bijoy, please. Shall I speak for 1 or 2 minutes to fill the gap?
Yeah, she's joining in a minute, sir.
She's joining in a minute. Okay. Okay. So I too had some problem in the beginning because of heavy rain. Somehow I could manage in time.
Good evening, one and all. I am presenting the review of the introduction and the preliminaries of the book. The writer, Swami Muni Narayana Prasad, begins the book by stating that this small book, Pure Philosophy, Simplified for Youth, was written to be a textbook for undergraduate studies in all universities as a compulsory subject. Why it has to be a compulsory subject? We are living in a modern world, a globalized, computerized world. People interact more with the machines, and the latest trend throughout the world is to groom the young generation to be money-making machines. Such a channelizing begins when the youth enter the university level of education. Proper value-based orientation with a well-conceived goal should be firmly rooted at this stage. But the younger generation who pursue professional careers are denied the opportunity to develop a proper view of the meaning of life. How to earn more money becomes their priority. Thus, with no moral judgment, most of them become criminals and weak-minded. What do the authorities do? They try their best to universalize technical and professional education. Why? Because it creates more job opportunities. The author gives a striking example here. The example of MBA course. What is basically taught in this highly skilled study? How the money in the pocket of another could skillfully be brought to one's own pocket or to the company one represents, that also with the full consent and the gladness of the other. A person who undergoes this professional training is never enlightened of the evilness hiding in such pursuits. This is a great global problem. Is there a remedy for this? We have doctors, engineers, lawyers, teachers, farmers, and even ordinary laborers. All of them have to live meaningful lives. To do so, they should have the awareness of the value and meaning of human life. They need to understand the nature of the world in which they are intrinsically a part. They need to know their actual roles in the world order. Unfortunately, these things are lacking in the modern system of education. The author is very much confident that what is lacking in the modern education could be infused into it. Philosophy is the only subject, the only remedy that covers all the above said aspects. Therefore, the author proposes philosophy as a compulsory subject for all undergraduate studies. What kind of philosophy? Which school of thought and religious teachings should we follow? We are addressing a global issue. Following any particular philosopher or a particular religion will not be acceptable to everyone everywhere. So we really need a newly developed way of looking at our own lives as an intrinsic part of the total world and the total life system. An impartial directive on how to live meaningfully as part of the whole is needed. Such a philosophy directly relates man with the cosmic life system. The author calls it pure philosophy. Pure philosophy, simplified for the youth, is such a textbook that directly relates man with the cosmic life system. As the author wishes earnestly, this book will satisfy the youth anywhere in the world. Not the youth only, the grown-ups and elders too would of course be benefited. The author says that the vision presented in this book is not his own. It is rather an extraction of honey from various flowers like perennial philosophers and world religions. And he obtained the overall guidance from the vision of oneness of Narayana Guru and the scientific representation of it by Nadaraja Guru. Yes, through the book Pure Philosophy, it reaches the young generation also. Here we can see a stepping down of vision from perennial philosophers to young generation. That is, from a high potential to a low potential. And the final stage of that stepping down process is the classroom. As a teacher, my humble opinion is that your philosophy should be taught from school level onwards. And there must be separate adapted textbooks on your philosophy for children. Separate teacher texts and pedagogy must be there for teachers on how to transact your philosophy to children. Pure Philosophy, Simplified for the Youth. The book has 10 chapters. Let's have a glance at chapter 1, Preliminaries. The chapter gives various definitions of philosophy, wisdom, the etymological meaning of philosophy, etc. The Random House Dictionary defines philosophy as the rational investigation of the truth and first principles of living, knowledge, and conduct. Etymologically, the word philosophy is compounded of two Greek words, philin, to love, and sophia, wisdom. Thus, philosophy means the love of wisdom. The ultimate goal of Western and Eastern philosophers are also described in this chapter. The common goal of all Western philosophers has been to find a body of answers to all basic problems of life formulated by reasoning. They depend solely on reasoning, but ensuring happiness or ananda in actual life has always been the ultimate goal of all Eastern philosophers. Philosophy for them is more of a value science. Another definition of philosophy is thinking about thinking. Thinking about thinking has to be introspective. This definition has leaning towards East. The word equivalent to philosophy in India is darshana. Darshana means vision. Vision of what? The vision of ourselves, the vision of our own life, the vision of nature as a whole, the vision of the real. The word darshana has three aspects: drik, the knower; drishya, the known; and darshana, knowledge. Both philosophy and science admit that the ultimate reality has to be one alone. If so, the knower, the known, and the knowledge cannot be three separate realities. They have to be the different forms of one and the same reality. Thus, the knower realizing himself or herself as the one reality in essential content is the final goal of philosophical search. Attaining this transparent vision is considered the essential content of wisdom in India. As the writer mentions in the preface, this book will be of much help to the educated youth all over the world. Of course, it will shape their lives and help them lead a meaningful life. The government should take strong decision to include pure philosophy, a compulsory subject in all universities. Pure philosophy simplified for the youth. Simplicity has its own eloquence. The uniqueness of Guru Muni Narayana Prasad is his innate mastery in presenting even the complex ideas in a simple, more comprehensible way. He always assures the reader's intuitive perception. I directly experience it through his classes. Let me conclude my words by prostrating on the feet of my Guru, Swami Muni Narayana Prasad, Swami Tyagishwaran, and Swami Tanmaya. Thank you all.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, you're audible, sir.
I'm audible, but I think I am not visible, isn't it?
Yes, you
Am I
are.
visible?
Yes.
So thank you, Dr. Rani. So one point that I want to add is wisdom is the knowledge of what is true or right, coupled with the right judgment. That's a very important part of wisdom, the judgment coupled with the knowledge of right or wrong. Because that judgment or lack of judgment is creating a lot of problems, ranging from the domestic affairs to international affairs. Suppose in a home, in a house, husband makes one particular decision and wife makes another judgment of the same situation, that can create a problem. Similarly, at international level, given a particular situation, what type of decisions the different countries are taking, that can lead to international issues. So judgment is a very important part of the wisdom. And now we are entering into two basic questions of philosophy. To enter into that question, we need a particular type of mindset, which I can narrate by way of a small story from Zen Buddhism, it's a Japanese philosophy. Once a professor approached a Zen master to learn Zen Buddhism. The professor has many degrees, many doctorates. So he thought of learning Zen Buddhism also. He went to the monastery. The Zen master received him with full courtesy. He himself offered a cup of tea. So he personally started pouring tea from the kettle to the cup. The cup was filled. But the Zen master went on adding, went on pouring tea. Naturally, it overflowed, it spilled over. The professor got annoyed, and in an irritating tone, he said, "See, master, the cup is already filled. You cannot add even a single drop of tea into it. It will just overflow." So very calmly, the Zen master said, "Dear friend, your mind also is like that. It is already filled. I cannot add anything to it." Meaning is that the domain of academic knowledge, the domain of learning oneself are entirely different. So if our mind is filled with all types of acquired knowledge, we cannot enter into the field of knowing ourselves. So we need an empty cup, a free mind to enter into the two basic questions of philosophy, which our Canadian partner will present, Srimati Shamida Bharadhan. So she left India after taking an MSc degree in agriculture, and she got another master's degree from Canada. Now she is in business field, and she is associated with an organization known as NPhil, Narayana Philosophical Society of Canada. They are in Toronto. It is in Toronto. So Shamida Bharathan, Madam, will be joining us from Toronto. Please, I request her to present the 2 basic questions of philosophy. Over to Shamida Ma'am.
Pranamam to Guru and Guru Paramparas. Good evening to one and all. Thank you, Sabu sir, for the introduction. I'll be sharing my screen for my presentation. I think everybody can see my screen now.
Yes, we can see.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you. Yeah, Rani teacher has given a nice orientation to the book and its purpose, its intended purpose. So I'll be covering chapters 2 and 3, fundamental questions that arise in any inquisitive mind. Who am I? And whence is the world? Here at Enfield, like Sabasa told, these questions and other topics of philosophy have been taught to young children. My presentation is an extract from such learning modules, and this is an example of how this book has been created to lecture modules from the concepts in this book. So I'm going to start with whence this world? What is this reality? There are 2 ways to approach this question. We can approach it scientifically or philosophically. So when we take the scientific route, scientists arrive at the causal material existence of this world as matter. Matter is something which occupies space and has mass, and everyone knows this. And space and mass are 2 attributes of matter. When we deconstruct matter, we can divide matter into elements, molecules, electrons, etc., and further down to quarks and end in non-material energy as the basic causal content of this material world. The creation of the universe are still a mystery to the scientific world. And if you think about the precursory state, which is still unexplained or is based on unfounded assumptions. So when we move to Eastern philosophy, in Eastern philosophy, matter is classified into 5 elements: Panchamaha, earth, water, air, fire, and space. And what we are seeing is the experiential world. We experience it through our 5 sensory perceptions, and we internalize these perceptions as names, forms, and form imagery, which is created from an objective reality present in the perceived world. For each corresponding object, there is a mental image created. This shows that there is a perceived universe inside the mind of an observer corresponding to the objective universe outside. So now let's think about what we are seeing and how we should look into whether this perceived universe is real or not. For example, if you take a piece of cloth, it can be deconstructed into yarn, yarn to fiber, fiber to molecules, and finally to its basic elements. So what is real here? Humans have just created names for different forms at each stage. If this perceived world is an effect, what is the cause? Reality is truly the experience of the observer. If we remove the observer, Drik, there is no objective reality to be experienced. Essentially, objects have existence only when there is a conscious mind capable of that experience. When we remove the last perceiver, we are also removing all this objective reality. Let's move on to the question. When we are questioned, who are you? So when we examine this question, it's who am I? We can examine it through verse 10 of Atmopadesha Shadakam of Narayana Guru. When questioned, who are you, to two people sitting in the dark? That's the scene set in that verse 10. So let's assume a person is sitting in the dark room and he thinks he's all alone. And the first person then realizes that someone else is in the room with him. So he wants to know, the first person wants to know who the other person is. So he's asking this question to the other person, who's there? Who's there in the dark? So the other person is also very inquisitive. And he also wants to know who the other person is in the dark. He's also asking the same question, who is there? The first person will answer, I am. When this person says, I am, that is his natural response. Then the second person will say, I am. That is everybody's natural response. Both the individuals will respond as I am. To both people, I represents the self. Irrespective of the individual, the answer is the same. So who am I? If we look into who am I through the eye of the Vedanta, it is through negation, neti neti. So I am not the physical body. If a person had to amputate a part of his hand, the unchanging I is the same in that person before and after the incident. So the physical body is not the I. I am not the five sense organs. Sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch are not what I is. So like the previous example, if somebody is hard on hearing or mute, then the I is not changing. Like that, if we negate the five organs of action, karmendriya, speech, locomotion, grasping, excretion, and procreation, it's the same situation. The I remains. I am not the five vital airs. I am not even the mind. That the mind which flows the thoughts. I am not the state of ignorance. Absence of knowledge and awareness is not the I. So we are removing all, and still that I is there. After negating all the above as not that, that awareness which alone remains is that I in me, which both the people in the dark are saying in the last example from Narayana Guru. Now let's think about another scenario. It's throughout my life, as time passes, I go through changes in knowledge and experience. These are attributes describes me, these changes, because when I am a baby, I have the physical form changes much from physical form changes when I am an elderly person. So the I changes, but those are the attributes. The knowledge changes, the experiences changes. So what is the same I in me? Although there is a change in attributes describing me, the feeling of I is the same in me, whether I am a baby, toddler, boy, teenager, young adult, elderly. You can notice the orange ball is the same irrespective of the age, knowledge, or experience. This is the
Shamita?
awareness of me.
Excuse me,
For
Shamita
me,
madam. Shamita
yeah.
madam, already we have
Yes.
crossed the time. Is the last slide?
Okay, no, 2 more slides, sir.
Please.
For me, oh, sorry, I'll just finish it. So the inner self, the I consciousness constantly remains the unchanged within me through the various stages of my life. So any individual such as I consciousness remains the same through the life, which is the core reality. And there is no two, it is just one core reality or consciousness reality. So whence this world and who am I? We are seeking the same reality in this world. We also wish to know that what is beyond what we see, that's what whence this world. And by trying to learn about the reality of the world, we learn that we are also part of the reality. This means that the reality that we are trying to know includes us as the knower, which is who am I? The answers to these questions amounts to self-knowledge, Atma Vidya. So even though these questions, who am I and whence this world, are seemingly different inquiries, the answer to these questions is one. Sorry about the offshoot, a bit time offshoot, and I have acknowledgements, and thank you very much.
So how much you grasp, that depends on how much the mind is empty. So we are already lagging, so without much explanation, I will mention just one point, what is given in the book. How to relate ourselves with the outer world. That's a mathematical way of relating the philosophical question. There's a concept of infinity in mathematics. One way of defining infinity is something like a circle, where the circumference is nowhere, but the center is everywhere. So each individual is the center and the ultimate consciousness. The circumference is everywhere. So we can connect ourselves with the universe. The more selfish we are, the circle will be very limited. And the more broad-minded we are, we can stretch the circle to infinity so that the circumference will be nowhere and the center is always. That's a mathematical way of connecting who am I and the world. Now we'll move to the next session. From these basic questions, we have to enter into individuals, how we live this philosophy. Now that will be presented by our partner from London, Mr. Sanal Madhavan. He is a software engineer in London, and his philosophical discourse that is mainly in connection with Nancy Yielding, who is an American lady, is a disciple of Guru Nitya Chaitanya. He is conducting certain online programs, mainly on Indian philosophy, and he is part of the study program also. So with due respect, I request Mr. Sanal Madhavan to present the next session that includes 3 chapters. Please.
Thank you, Dr. Zama. Let me see if I can share the screen. Hopefully you can see my screen and I am audible. Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible. Yes, you're audible.
You're audible, okay. audible.
Thank you. Okay, so thank you, Dr. Sabu. So in this part of the presentation, as Dr. Sabu has just mentioned, we're covering 3 chapters. We'll conclude that first half of the book, which provide the answers to the fundamental problems of life, with chapters 4 and 5. And then we'll follow with chapter 6, which starts looking at how to live in the light of this understanding. So here we go with chapter 4, how and why does the world emerge? So Guru has shown in the previous chapters that the consciousness is the all underlying substance to all the forms in the world. So how does this come about? Religions treat it as a historical event. However, creation is an ongoing process, and there is a mysterious element that religion cannot describe. And science cannot accept a mystery hides in the problem because it's considered unscientific. So how is it possible to explain that one consciousness is what assumes the form of the world? We directly experience the all underlying reality through our individual consciousness, and this consciousness never remains functionless, even in deep sleep. It functions as unconsciously enjoying deep sleep. The concept is actually very familiar to us. Sometimes when we have a problem and we cannot find a solution, we have an expression, let's sleep on it. So where do the answers reside? It seems that the unconscious mind is what appears on the surface, but there is a greater unknown underneath. So there's an aspect of the unknown which is universally recognized, because we can readily accept that when we are trying to find a solution and we have tried our level best, we can always sleep on it. And in the morning, when we are relaxed, perhaps in the shower, the thought suddenly appears out of the blue. When it occurs, it seems so obvious. It is precisely the solution we are looking for, and it excites us immensely. That is what is known as the eureka moment. It comes at the most unexpected of times. It can appear when we are not looking for the solution. This is the work of the great unknown. So this consciousness never remains functionless. Even in our deep sleep, it functions as unconsciously enjoying the sound sleep. The same should be true with the universal consciousness as well. For something to function on its own, it has within it an inherent creative urge. This urge, which is never inactive, exists in the universal consciousness reality. We recognize this urge because out of nowhere, we see something that reminds us that nature is incessant, using any opportunity to assume various forms. It is those self-assumed forms of the one consciousness that appears to us as the world. The range of this apparent world that we perceive is from the most subtle mind to the most gross physical matter. Isn't it amazing that for us to create anything, first we have to imagine it, and then we can actualize it? The mystery in such a creation is often compared by Indian seers to magic. All the enchanting illusory appearances shown by a magician is nothing but his willful imagination materialized. That then appears to us as the world. It is referred to as a Maya in India, and the work of the magician is the Maya view. Maya literally means that which has no being. When religious believers explain this mysterious element, they refer to God. We and our actions are part of that same mysterious nature unfolding as the world. How does the one consciousness relate to birth and death? Just as a wave originates from the ocean and returns to the ocean, the new forms of appearances express itself and returns to the ocean of consciousness. This is what is known as death. From the ocean's point of view, nothing is born and nothing dies either. The birth of an individual is like this. It is the one consciousness alone that exists. If a wave could realize it is a part of the ocean, then a person can too. All of the expressions of the one consciousness is the way it actualizes happiness. The most sublime of all happiness is the self-expression of creative writers and artists. The consciousness reality is always actualizing by creating and destroying, just as a child may create a sandcastle and then break it. So on to chapter 5, actions as such, and this is the final chapter of that first half of the book. So we now know that an individual's existence is a part of the existence of the whole, and the actions of the individuals and of the total nature are not two. Actions in themselves are neither good or bad, they are just actions. And the actions of a person who constantly experiences his or her identity with nature, also neither good or bad, neither meritorious or sinful. Neither do enlightened ones have the sense of being the doers of their actions. When we think about good or bad, are these ideas formulated by human minds based on certain value notions? When Swami Tanmaya visited London in 2014, in a study class, I remember asking him, how does a benevolent God create such a fearful animal as a shark? I can't quite remember the answer, but perhaps he said something like, the absolute is neutral. It is neither good or bad. It just is. And the value notions that we formulate are only valid in respect to human nature and not at all relevant in respect of nature's actions. Living a life that transcends sin and merit is possible only with the enlightened. To help the unenlightened live a righteous life, the enlightened ones have formulated clear directives regarding what to do in life and what to avoid. These instructions are known in India as Dhamma, Shastras, or Smritis. These moral codes find their place in the body of the main scriptures of all the religions. Whichever the religious tradition these moral codes belong to, they are instructions for living righteously, instructions on Dhamma. Although Dhamma is used as a Sanskrit equivalent to religion, it is derived from the verb root dra, meaning to support. The word Dhamma then literally means that which supports. The systems that supports the entire cosmos and the life in it is the real Dhamma. When our actions fully fall in line with this system, they could be counted as ethical, fully righteous, or agreeable Dhamma. When we practice the codes of conduct or Dhammas, we ensure happiness in our life because our actions are in harmony with nature. So now we are beyond our halfway of this entire presentation. We're about to start the second half of the book. So we've received the answers to the fundamental problems of life based on common sense and the love of truth. The second half is about how to live in the light of this understanding. Let's call this part the bare necessities of life. So one of the best sources available to guide our lives along the best of all possible virtual paths is to become familiar with the lives of the great men of the world. Their hallmark is their simple living and high thinking. Such masters lived as they thought, and they thought in order to live accordingly, and also to be role models to others. One's thinking, one's words, one's deeds, all three becoming in full accordance with each other is considered one of the best human virtues all over the world. The stories of most of the highly enlightened and rich in respect to the guidelines of virtues, the rishis of ancient India, are known to us, apart from some mythological legends. The legends of these people are highly morally inspiring and are depicted in Indian epics such as the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. In Mahabharata, Duryodhana seeks blessings of his mother, Gandhari, before the war, and she says, where righteousness prevails, there victory avails. These words are repeated many times in the epic, and these words are to be constantly recalled in life. In the Mahabharata, the fruitfulness of human efforts is repeated often. All the efforts made in life, though meticulously planned, may not yield the intended result. Why is that? Efforts and their fruiting take place in nature. Events in nature have an unforeseeable course of their own. Efforts also have to bear fruit as part of nature's
Sanalji, a gentle reminder. Sanalji,
yeah.
gentle reminder about time.
Okay. Yeah, we're almost time. Okay, so I think just one more slide. So, efforts also have to bear fruit as part of nature's unpredictable unfoldment events. This does not mean you do not have to make any concerted effort in life. The ability to do so is already in as part of nature itself. Fruiting of such efforts depends also on the chance element natural with nature. These two, efforts and chance elements, are concurrent in the intended result. Of these two, human effort in Sanskrit is characterized as Purusha, that which is related to Purusha or human, and the chance element is termed Deva, that which pertains to fate. Keeping this reality in mind enables one to face all life situations with a sense of calmness and equanimity. Okay, final slide. So we have a very forceful psychological factor part of nature that guides us in our actions, conscience, and that conscience forbids us from doing certain actions. We should practice harmonizing the outer flow of our actions with the conscience that forms part of our inner nature. Okay, with that, I'm handing back to Dr. Saba. Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, Shamita Madam and Mr. Sanal Madhavan are not just presenters, they are proofs and examples that we can have a different outlook of world and life wherever we live, and whatever we do, in whatever field we are, we can have a separate outlook provided our mind is empty. Both are living abroad, and Sanilji reached London at the age of 1.5. So he was brought up in a different ambience. Still he can practice that. So if that is possible, every individual can possible to develop a different outlook, provided we are willing for that. And now there's a saying that imitation is human and creation is divine. That is, creating ourselves may be a bit difficult. But hello? But imitating may be very easy. So we can practice to develop a philosophical vision. And in the meantime, we can also depend on great prophets or gurus who leave their wisdom by following their words. There are instructions and prescriptions based on which we can conduct our life. Now we are entering into that part. The next two chapters are mainly the instructions, moral instructions. We will begin with that of Buddha. And Buddha's instructions will be presented by Dr. Radha Rani. She is both academically trained, a professor of philosophy, and also she is living her philosophy as part of the Gurukulam family. Dr. Radha Rani, please.
Thank you, sir. Pranamam to respected gurus and pranamam to one and all. So moving to the next chapter, that is the 7th chapter, which is titled as Some Direct Moral Instructions. This chapter sheds light on importance of ethics in human life. Morality sets the standards of what is right or wrong, good or bad. Even though morals differ from person to person or from culture to culture, still there are approximately certain universal standards set on the basis of human emotions as well as general well-being. According to Guru Muni Narayana Prasad, the author of this book, ethics makes effort to develop rules and principles of moral behavior. He also reminds us that ethics is an essential feature of human culture. The decisions that human beings make in life as a free thinker will control his way of life and make life meaningful. When man uses his free will, he should live in harmony with the nature around him. Likewise, one's own decisions should not be harmful to others. The chapter explained that the growth of the field of ethics is a reflection of man's attempt to control his actions in this way. The 7th chapter mainly analyzes the moral principles of Buddhism. It has been made clear that a person can lead a very peaceful and happy life and can rise to the spiritual level through the implementation of Buddhist moral principles. The well-known Panchashilas and the 4 Noble Truths in Buddhism are briefly described at the outset. The Eightfold Path that the Buddhists said to eliminate human craving are analyzed and explained clearly. The Eightfold Path describes what a person should be like in life. It teaches us how to understand things properly, how to deal with others, how to reach the real truth by focusing on the right endeavors, etc. Actually, the quintessence of the Buddha's ethical teachings can be known by an analysis of the Eightfold Path. The Noble Eightfold Path consists of 3 ways of practice: wisdom, morality. Morality being the foundation for further progress in order to attain personal development. It is considered the first of the ways of practice. It forms the basis of all positive qualities, all virtues, all achievements, starting from ordinary to supraordinary, and finally wisdom and enlightenment. Good conduct is a prerequisite for following the path and gaining results. Actually, one must create a foundation of good conduct in order to be successful. This is what the author tried to teach us. A separate analysis of a Buddhist virtue, kindness, is given at the end of this chapter. In principle, when you kill another creature, you kill yourself, because ultimately the essence that is present in you and other living beings is consciousness or knowledge, and we call it as Arava in Malayalam. If human beings become vegetarians, they will be able to avoid cruelty to animals to some extent. As humans eat more and more, reduced and brutally kill them and turn into food. The author said that you are free to decide according to your conscience whether or not to kill creatures for just to please your palate or for the sake of a taste. We need to have a measure of how much we can hurt other living beings for our food. The quality kindness is to make a person feel sorrow at the agony of others and thus create tender feelings in him. It is kindness alone that can help and prevent human beings from dangers, ruins, and agony. Kindness helps one to develop a mentality of helping others in distress. This chapter points to the importance of showing kindness to us all living beings on this earth. Nowadays, many human beings have no hesitation treating other living beings cruelly. So the analysis of kindness is very relevant. The chapter is really thought-provoking. The author digs deep into Buddhist ethics that takes a holistic view of life. The author stresses the need for nurture and care for all things with zero partiality. The book inspires for the cultivation of a mental state in which our actions are in sync with the flow of life. The work will greatly benefit students and is equally useful for those trying to learn philosophy. Morality plays a very important role both for an individual and society. Through the moral values, a person learns to behave in society. With the vast development in today's world, there has been a downward trend in the character and ethical values. Social values have taken a step back, and money making and materialistic values have been given great importance. The focus must now be laid on morality since there's a deterioration in ethical values causing perversion, corruption, exploitation, etc. It has thus become the hour of the day to impart moral values and philosophical thinking, especially to young people. The book Pure Philosophy Simplified for Youth can help in a great way to accomplish this task. The author through this book shows his depth in philosophical studies as well as his competency in teaching ethical principles. There's a connecting link in all through the chapters of this book, and the progression is so well arranged that its principal theme can be understood step by step. The ethical principles of different religions and the need of spiritual enhancement are depicted in a very special way. This makes the book a unique one, and the language used is very simple that the readers will relish to read and will be nourished through its wealthy content. This book will also deepen the minds to know the truth by leading a virtuous life. This is a must-read book for anyone trying to learn about philosophy and ethics. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, Dr. Radharani. We have
Thanks.
Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path of Buddha. We have other gurus and prophets also. Now we will enter into that part. How we can use Jesus as a model. We have Prophet Muhammad Nabi as a model. Also, we have scriptures of Indian philosophy in general or Hinduism. Those models are there. But that part will be dealt by Dr. Priya Nair. Dr. Priya Nair, he has a doctorate in philosophy. He is also a postgraduate in law. He is teaching law as well as she is practicing as a lawyer. Now she will explain the next part, the next chapter, dealing with other moral instructions or prescriptions. Please, Dr. Priya, please.
Thank you, sir, for inviting me. The chapter I'm going to present here is the 8th chapter, that is some more moral instructions. In this chapter, the author tries to enlighten the significance of moral or ethical principles for leading a meaningful life. According to the author, the actions that ensures one's own happiness at the same time ensuring the happiness of all other beings is called ethical, and the one who engages in selfish activities are unethical. By bringing this ethical ideal, the author tries to reveal the truth that there is only one reality that underlines in every being. By giving the title to this chapter, Some More Moral Instructions, the author in this chapter is trying to bring out the various kinds of moral instructions which were scattered in the Indian scriptures and the world's great religions. Of these moral instructions, some of the teachings are related as how one's own actions have effect on the life of others, and some other teachings are concerned with personal matters. In this chapter, the author is highlighting the importance of personal hygiene for a healthy life. There are mainly 5 purities as stated. These practices are enjoined in the ancient scriptures, and these practices are together known as fivefold purities or Shuddhi Panchakas. By providing these 5 personal hygiene in this chapter, the author tries to make it clear that how far the hygienes are vital in a person's life. Here, purity means not only physical and mental purity, but also purity in speech and purity in residences are also essential for a healthy life. The author in this chapter highlighted the importance of one's own responsibility towards one's own being and the total nature of the world. Mainly, 5 such responsibilities are stated, and these are together known as 5 great sacrifice or Panchamaha yajnas. Today, especially young generations, are giving importance only to the money making and they lead a luxurious life, and no one is bothered about their responsibilities. By stating these responsibilities in this chapter, the author tries to bring out young generations to be a responsible citizens of society. The author brings out ethical principles laid down in the 2 major Upanishads, Taittiriya Upanishad and Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. A Taittiriya Upanishad is a when he leaves the Guruvila for his home. All moral issues are self-explanatory. By stating these instructions, the author intended that these instructions will throw light upon the student's future life, which will help him to lead a better life in the society. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad upholds the high values in human life. Brihadaranyaka Upanishad upholds the importance of dana, dharma, and daya, together known as 3 dayas, which were stated in this chapter. Man is a social animal, so sharing each other's is essential.
I think she lost the connection.
I think Dr. Priya is disconnected.
So let us wait, isn't it? For 1 or 2 minutes.
She lost her net, I think.
She will rejoin. Let us see. Let us wait.
Yes, yes.
Hello, Sakya, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes, you are audible.
The
You are
author in
audible.
this chapter out the moral instruction. Thank you, sir. The author in this chapter tries to highlight in the moral instructions laid down the world's great major religions, such as 10 Commandments of Judaism, to
Ma'am, you can switch off the video.
Dr. Priya, can you hear me? Dr. Priya?
the name of religion. In the contemporary world, everything is measured in terms of money and everything is money oriented. Killing one's own parents, brother for wealth or revenge are becoming common nowadays. No value has been given to anything except money. In such a situation, this book is a guiding light not only to students but also to the entire community. The entire world is alarmed, and the people of the world are frustrated because of the pandemic corona. The philosophical ideals and ethical principles laid down in this book will surely help the humanity to face their problems in life. In life, both sufferings and happiness should be treated with a sense of equanimity. The author clearly pointed out that these ethical and philosophical ideals provided in the chapter are meant to be practiced in everyday life. Then we can overcome the life's problem with a sweet smile. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Priya. So that's about
Thank you, sir.
Bible, Quran, Upanishads, etc. So one very basic principle of Quran that I noted is that it's not the action that matters, but it is the motivation, the subjective side. So that point is given stress in Quran, one point. And in Bible, the question that is not my doubt actually. I have read it in a particular text. One commandment is that thou shalt not kill, you should not kill. Actually, how should we interpret that commandment? Does it mean that you should not kill human beings or you should not kill any animal? Usually it is interpreted as that commandment is that you should not kill human beings. But it is not specifically stated. What is stated is that thou shalt not kill. So had it been specifically mentioned for human beings, it should have been should not kill human beings. But the official or the common notion is that you should not kill human beings. But if you change that interpretation, lot of changes can be brought in the world. So it's open to the participants. It's not a final decision or a conclusion, but that possibility is also there in a different interpretation. Now, we have seen the basic questions of philosophy. We have seen who am I, the world, the different moral instructions, all these are seen. But one ultimate question remains, what is the goal of life? What is the goal of life? And with an answer to that question, Anju will join. And also she will deal with the last chapter, because even though the topic is philosophy, certain aspects of philosophy cannot be totally detached from religion. So the last chapter touches religion also. So Anju will explain on what is the goal of life ultimately, or what should be the goal of life, and the role of religion in life. Anju is basically a teacher, just like Sanal Madhavan. Anju also is part of the study program of Nancy Wilding from USA. So she will present the remaining 2 chapters. Welcome, Anju.
Thank you, Sabusa, and namaste all. I'm going to share the screen now. Is it visible?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. Namaste all. Pure Philosophy Simplified for Youth, review of chapters 9 and 10. I'm very happy to be able to participate in this webinar. On this auspicious occasion, I remember the blessings of Guru and encouragement and support of all of you. Message of this book. The book emphasizes the importance of attaining real happiness by getting proper awareness of one's own identity. We should identify ourselves with the universal, pure consciousness and come out of the narrow walls of selfish desires, preoccupied thoughts, feelings, and aspirations. Whatever be our profession, religion, culture, social status, or nationality, we should become better human beings who can embrace the whole nature as ourselves. In our life, we have some questions that we may never find time to get an answer because we all are busy with our vocations. For example, what is the meaning of life? What is the ultimate aim of life? How can we attain real happiness? What is the role of religion in our life? How should we pray? If we can find answers to such questions, most of the problems in our life will be solved. This book, Pure Philosophy Simplified for Youth, written by Guru Muninarayana Prasad, attempts to answer all these questions. The goal of life. Chapter 9, the goal of life deals with our attitude towards life and explains how to set a goal which shapes our life. The highest goal attainable in human life is the proper understanding of 3 values: happiness, liberation, and immortality, and attaining the experiences in which these values become one. But nowadays, we, especially our youth, become money-making machines. They run after the pleasures of life and lucrative jobs. We think that securing a job and having enough money can make us happy, but it should be realized that money only buys all our needs. With money, we can't buy happiness. Real happiness can be explained as what we seek for the sake of its own. It has 2 facets. First one is the avoidance of suffering, which is negative in nature. Second one is that of attaining felicity, which is positive in nature. The real happiness is where these facets meet. How to attain real happiness? It is clearly answered in this book. The real happiness is within us. The awareness of this real happiness makes life meaningful and encourages us to keep the control of ourselves from worldly pleasures, which are transitory. Then there arises a question. Should our senses and mental faculties be suppressed forcibly to attain this happiness? The answer is no. We have to view the experience of pleasure and pain as the consciousness content of our being, finding expression as sense perceptions. When this attitude is stabilized in our mind, we shall become detached witness and free from the world and its temptations. This happiness is interrelated to freedom and immortality. We have an illusion that one happiness derives from something external to us. So we are in bondage with our family, locality, caste, religion, nation, etc. To get rid of it, we have to be aware of our real happiness. Be enlightened of what and who we really are. Be aware of the reality that the activities you are engaged in really take place in nature, that you are merely instrumental in relation to those actions. This awareness keeps us liberated of all actions. Also, we have a misconception about death and immortality. All of us fear death, though it is inevitable. Ordinary people try to continue their existence through their children. But this book offers a philosophical way of attaining immortality. We have to understand that birth is the emerging of a new apparent form in the ever-existing reality, and death is its re-emerging into the same reality. We really are the one birthless and deathless reality. Chapter 10, titled Religion and Prayer, also points out our misconceptions about religion and prayer. It clearly explains how to view all the religions and put an end to religious rivalries. This chapter also analyzes the role of prayer and the mindset of people who are religious in their own way. Religion occupies an important role in man's life. They teach man the secret concerning the one ultimate reality and also how one can live in conformity with that reality. There are two types of religions, prophetic and non-prophetic religion. Prophetic religions originated from the teachings of certain prophets, for example, Islam and Christianity. Non-prophetic religions originated from the wisdom taught by certain enlightened masters, for example, Hinduism, Taoism, etc. All religions aim at the betterment of man. Differences are there only with respect to historical and cultural background. All religions themselves are good. This understanding pulls us back from religious rivalries and prompts us to understand and appreciate the common core teaching in all religions. It enables us to live as a free and happy individual with no hatred towards the followers of other religions. Such people can also live as a world citizen while being the citizen of a particular nation. The concluding part of this chapter deals with prayer. It is an essential practice in all religions. Prayer may be verbal as well as silent. We believe that prayer is a medium of seeking the blessings of God to fulfill our personal favors. Then it should be aimed at the happiness of all. Some people are ready to believe without questioning, but others are scientific in their belief. A principled prayer should not be for any personal favor, but to attune and identify with the Supreme Self. Conclusion. The book concludes with Devadeshakam and a direct quotation from Albert Einstein. According to Einstein, our task must be free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and embrace the whole nature in her beauty. So in the opinion of Einstein, we have to experience the universe as a single whole. Noble thoughts and deeds can transcend the superstitions and prejudices. So set the goal to become a better human being by cultivating goodness in us. No matter what is our present status, be a better human being. Thank you.
Dr. Sabu available?
Maybe rain affecting the link.
Hello. Hello.
You're audible,
Hello.
Dr. Sabu. You're audible.
Hello.
You're audible.
Audible?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So that is happiness. What we are seeking for it is happiness. When we purchase a new car, the car will give us comfort outside and happiness inside. So happiness is inside, the comfort outside. So I think
Dr.
Bijoy is
Sabu,
going to stop at
Dr. Sabu, I
9:15,
think
isn't it?
I think your bandwidth is
Bijoy?
low. You may switch off the video camera off.
Okay. What about now? What about now?
It's better, Dr. Sabu.
It's better?
Yes, yes. Please proceed.
Am I right? So how much time we can take for discussion? Better stop at 9:15.
Yes, please. We may stop at 9:15.
So then we can have some 1 or 2 quick questions, please. Very brief questions, 1 or 2. I will conclude and the last. More questions? Hello. So then we will move to the next part. I will hand over the platform by my comments. Basically, am I audible? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
I
Yeah, Dr.
think there
Sugita, you
is-
may start speaking, please.
Is speaking?
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Now, I'd like to appreciate all these speakers, Dr. Radharani, Srimati.
Questions, please. If you have, please, if you have any questions to ask, please. We don't have
Dr.
much
Sabu,
time.
Dr.
It will be
Sugita is
time.
here to ask questions
Hello?
now. Dr. Sugita is here to ask questions. I think it's not visible to you.
She is visible, but I am saying that you just directly come to the questions
Okay,
instead
okay,
of
okay.
going for elaborations.
All right, all right. It's to Dr. Sugita, yes.
No, I have no questions to ask them. I just comment upon these papers. No question to ask. And I would like to remind one thing. The title of the book is Pure Philosophy, Simplified for the Youth. And this philosophy simplified for the youth, that is apparent. But the philosophy itself is young always. So that meaning is intrinsic in this title. The philosophy is simplified it is useful for the youth, as well as the philosophy itself is young always. I'd like to refer Shankaracharya's one stotra, it is Guru Yuva.
So I think we
Guru
don't have time
always
for.
Yuva. That's all. I have
Excuse
no other questions. Just to mention this.
Oh, we don't have time for.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Okay. Any other participant? Hello. Hello.
Yes, you're waiting for
Okay.
participants. If not, you may conclude, Dr. Sabu.
Okay.
Okay.
So what I want to say as conclusion, we see that it's a question of our. At one end, you have the body. The other end, you have the identity of the consciousness, or what is known as the absolute or Brahma, whatever it is. So in between, we can have different identify with the body. You are almost like an animal. And the more we are elaborating our identities, we are broadening our horizon. And the maximum limit is that of consciousness, according to which the great prophets or gurus lived. So we have a model and we have the two extremes. We can elaborate. So in that way also we can see the pure philosophy simplified for youth. And thank you. Now I'm handing over to the host for declaring officially that the event is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sabu and the presenters for your fantastic session and lively participation in the subject matter. It was extremely entertaining and there were a lot of knowledge situations covered in it. I'm sure everyone had a good time listening to it. Similarly, we have plenty of other such events coming up in the following weeks. I would like to mention briefly that we have a webinar series taking place in September from the 11th to the 17th on various topics such as general philosophy, modern science, Indian philosophy, and the philosophy of Narayana Guru. Also, on the final day of the series, we will have a get-together of all participants. We invite everyone to the event and anticipate a high level of participation in the series. Another thing I would like to bring to your attention is that we plan up to do a webinar for high school and college students in October. Unfortunately, not many people from that demographic have shown up to participate in it. In fact, we hope that people will come forward to pursue their children or a student you know to participate in it. Such engagements will undoubtedly prepare them to be assets in the brave new world of tomorrow. That's all we've got for tonight. On behalf of the Gurukula, we extend our heartfelt happiness to everyone who took part in the festivities.